Can you ask your question again, please? Uh-huh. Okay, in the background position X% and Y%, right? So it's easy actually. How much from the X? It's actually, you can say, the property by default image is placed at the top left corner. From the top high, how much percent, and from the left how much percent? Getting my point? From the top how much percent, and from left how much percent? Correct? So that is the that is what your background position. Let's create it. Let me open the VS Code. Yeah, just a minute, I'm sharing. Can you see my screen now? Okay. So when you say, let's consider that we need to assign background image to this. Let's have a div, and into this div I would like to, okay, font.css we already have done, and we can say class container cont dot cont, and what we need to do we have any image? Where we have image? In which day we have used image? 3 day, third, no, 8th day we have used the image. Okay, now let me add background image, URL, right, and mario.png. Background position center, background position center. Okay, now sorry, reveal in finder, and here let's open it. Okay, now background position. What do you mean by background position? So here we can say background color, background size, contain, and background position 10% and 10%. Correct? Now let's remove this guy, background image, and refresh it. So just observe very carefully. The image from the top left, from the left and from the top gets moved. Just a little here, E and M, above E and M there is a hat. Let's try to add these two things and see what happens if I add these two things. And can you see something is getting changed? from the top and from the left, right? From the top and from the left. So technically this 10% is a left and this 10% is a top. Okay, top and the left. So distance from top and the left. So if this is your image, if this is the container, so from the left how much percent and from the top how much percent? So image would be getting started from here, correct? So that is nothing but what your image position left and the top. Understood? Okay. Now today's topic, shall I move ahead? So new folder, day-10. And here in the day 10, we can create new file, scroll.html and scroll.css. And here we can say scrollbars. Let's import scrl.css. Okay. Now what we need to do, let's have a main. Into that let's have one div, and let's get some random text. Let's get some random text from Google, or we have, okay, I'm copying this and add it. One more div, and we can add one divider, HR, horizontal rule. HR stands for what? Horizontal rule. Now this is the, we can say, one box. We can create class box, and inside the box we can say first border width 300 pixels, height 50 pixels, okay, and border 1px solid red, and just apply class box over here. And I think it's day 10. We need to move in a day 10. Yeah, if you see here, first see here, text is going beyond the box, correct? So let's comment this out, and here you will find, so actually this much is the text. Even just remove this horizontal rule also. If you see, this much is the text. Now what's my requirement is that the text should be contained in this box only, right? Text should be contained in the particular box only. So what needs to be done, right? So I will use few new things like overflow, scroll. Can you see? Scroll bar, vertical scroll bar and horizontal scroll bars are getting added automatically, right? Now if I remove this thing and refresh it, text is going beyond the box, but I want to limit this text inside the box. So you will add overflow scroll, overflow scroll. Automatically it will do this thing. Another property, I will comment it again, come like this, and then we can say overflow auto and refresh it. See, so there is a little difference between scroll and auto. Now question is that what if I have some lesser content like this, only this much content I have. So here you don't need scroll bars, right? Now go here and just say, I will comment this out and sorry, and this, refresh it. So in this case, whenever you say scroll, so here scroll is added by means of the scroll, right? There is one more property. Let's not talk about the lesser content, just add it and make one more property we have. Let's comment visible. See now, see the content would be like this. It will allow the content to overflow. So what do you mean by visible? It's like you are allowing, you are saying the text to overflow outside this box. Getting my point? Hello? Visible means what? Allow to overflow. Now let's copy this once again. Visible and hidden. Now see, hidden. The content is not allowed to be overflown, but there are no scroll bars. Content is not allowed to be overflown. Also, there won't be any scroll bars. We are not providing any scroll bars. Correct? Now these two properties decide content should be overflown or not, and these two properties decides how to show the scroll bars. Auto means what? Scroll bar will be shown only if content overflows. Auto means what? Scroll bar will be shown only if content would be overflown, right? Just a minute. Now in some cases we need by default scroll bar at any time, right? We need scroll bar every time. This property, which one? The scroll property, forces both horizontal and vertical scroll bar to be always visible regardless the content is overflowing or not. So when you say scroll, which means that scroll bar would be visible. If content doesn't overflow, empty scroll bars will still be present, right? So you will get a different behavior on the different browsers. So technically what happens here, when you say scroll, so scroll bars would be there no matter your thing is overflowing or not. Auto means what? Then and only then. Yeah, so auto, this property displays the scroll bars when content overflows the element's visible area. So this is the visible area, right? So this is what about the scroll bars. This is about what? Scroll bars. Now when you say scroll bars, allowing or managing content in the visible area. So why do you need scroll bars? For managing content in the visible area. Let's go in the notes and just try to write it. Just try to prepare the notes. Scroll bars. So here, what is the scroll bar? Just a minute. So there are multiple ways to show the scroll bar. So first thing is a overflow. So I will add h1 and overflow. I will add h1 and what? Overflow. First technique. There are multiple techniques to show the scroll bars. First technique is you can say overflow. So actually this is not related to the scroll bar, but you can consider that scroll bars would be shown if content is overflowed. Hello? So here you can say the CSS overflow property controls how content that overflows the boundaries of an element is displayed. It is particularly when the content exceeds its visible area. So browser automatically does this thing, right? The overflow property offers different values. We have seen all those values. Overflow visible. This is the default value, remember that. This is default value. Overflow visible is the default value. Okay, let's not do in this way. H3 overflow visible. Overflow visible. It's a default value. Content that, so here you can say it's a default value, or simply say default value. Content that overflows the element boundaries will be displayed outside the element, potentially overlapping other element. No scroll bars are added. Then Then second one, overflow hidden. Overflow hidden. Content that is content that overflows will be clipped and anything outside the element boundaries will not be visible. No scroll bars are added. Then overflow scroll, this property, it will show the scroll bar. That's why we are learning overflow under the scroll bar. Under the section, we are learning overflow under the section scroll bar, which means that there is a other technique also. We will talk about that techniques as well. But before that, you need to know something else. Scroll bars are always visible, even if content doesn't overflow. If content does overflow, both horizontal and vertical scroll bars are present. Correct? Then auto, last property, auto. So what is the auto property? There is one property called as auto. Scroll bars would be visible only if content is overflowing, right? Horizontal and the vertical scroll bars will appear. Horizontal and vertical scroll bars will appear. Now, there are few more properties. Overflow X, overflow Y. There are two properties, overflow X, overflow Y. You will decide which scroll bar to enable. Correct? These properties allow you to control the overflow behavior for separately also you can decide. Means, let's go here and here we can say overflow X, how it should be? It should be scroll, and overflow Y, it should be auto. Something like this. X means horizontal scroll bar, Y means vertical scroll bar. Then there is something called as overflow value inherit. So whenever you will find inherit, so properties of the parent are inherited, right? Properties of the parent are inherited. Then overflow inherit, here we can say H3, overflow inherit. Overflow inherit. Inherits the overflow value from parent, right? The overflow property provides control over overflow property provides control over the overflow property provides control over how overflowing content is displayed, ensuring that your layouts are visually appealing and the functional. That's why we use what? Overflow property. Overflow property, right? Now in CSS, before coming to second way of this thing, we need to learn something else. Just a minute. So when you talk about CSS, there is something called as webkit properties. Webkit properties. Now, what are the webkit properties? We need to understand first, right? So whenever you talk about the webkit, so let's try to implement something and then we will write it into the document. Okay. So here you can add the scroll bar. You can add the scroll bar by means of webkit property. Webkit properties. So when you talk about webkit, webkit refers to the open source browser engine that powers many browsers including Safari, Google Chrome, and other browsers. See here, when you talk about the webkit properties, refers to the open source browser engine that powers many browsers including Safari, Google Chrome, and the various other browsers. It's a rendering engine. It's a rendering engine that processes HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to display the web content on the user screen. In the context of the CSS, WebKit properties. Now see, these properties are coming from the CSS. But there are some browser specific properties also. Now, there are variety of the browsers available in the market. Variety of the browsers are available in the market. So consider that this is one browser. Hello? This is one browser. This is another browser. And this is another browser. And these browsers may have their own properties as well. These browsers may have their own properties to do something, but all of them or some of them have something in common, and that common thing is called as WebKit. If you try to tweak those things, it will, what you can say, it will work with all these browsers. And that is nothing but what the WebKit properties are. We will see few WebKit properties. In the scroll HTML only, we have this other div. Okay. So I just have defined the WebKit. See here, WebKit refers to the open source browser engine that powers many web browsers including Safari, Google Chrome, up until the version 27, and the various other browsers. It's a rendering engine that processes the HTML, CSS, JavaScript to display the web content on the user screen. In the scr.css, let's create something called as : see now, hyphen, can you see Moz related thing, webkit hyphen scroll bar, webkit hyphen scroll bar. So let's comment this as well. Let's comment this. and I will comment this also. So you can uncomment it. Or let's do one thing, let's create a separate file. And here to this, I will rename to the overflow over O or OFL, and to this also OFL dot CSS. So here OFL dot CSS scroll bars using overflow. Okay, now create a separate file scr.html, new file scr.css, scr.html, scr.css, HTML file, scroll bar using webkit properties. Link rel css scr dot css, scr dot css, main. Let's add this div. Now let's create div directly. Paragraph. And in the paragraph, we will write something like this. Hello. And scr.css have been added. Now let's try to use the webkit. So if you want to use something related to the webkit, and then you can say webkit hyphen scroll bar, webkit hyphen scroll bar, width 10 pixels. Okay, width 10 pixels. And here also we need dot cnt or dot box, width 300 pixel, height 100 pixel, overflow auto, and border 1px solid red, class cnt. Class what? CNT. Now go to the day 10 scr.html. Now presently if you see, you cannot see anything. So you customized the default behavior, default scroll bar for, see, if I remove this thing, right? If I remove this thing, default scroll bar will appear. Can you see this? Can you see this black little? Hello? If you see this thing, this scroll bar. Now what I wanted to do, I want to create my own scroll bar, right? So the minute you add this thing, the default behavior will disappear. Can you see? You will not see some bar over here, right? Now scroll bar thumb means what? A little bar that is coming over here. So there is a property again, webkit scroll bar thumb. Can you see this? A background color, simply we can say red, and border radius, we can say 10 pixel. Now let us see what happens. Can you see this? So this you created manually, and this is the border radius. If I remove the border radius, it would be the, can you see rectangle? Hello? Hello? Can you see this rectangle? If I add the border radius, what it will do? A radius, little radius would be added both at the both ends. Now, another property we have, that is a track. To understand this, webkit scrollbar track. Track means, okay, just comment all this out and see what is the track first. Try to understand it. So, can you see the path where scrollbar runs is the track? Hello? The path where scrollbar runs is the scrollbar track. So we are talking about that track, scrollbar track. What color you would be needing? Background color, I can say cadet blue. Refresh it. Can you see the red color on that track? It is working. You can just try to add width, say 20 pixels, and see what happens. It will not work in that way. So there are some other properties to add track width and something like that. Now, if you see this thing, you will understand what do you mean by scrollbar, webkit scrollbar. You created your own scrollbar. Sometimes you need to build your own scrollbars. At that time, you will use webkit related properties. And when you use the webkit related properties, this goes easy to customize other behaviors also, not only scrollbar, but if you want to customize something else, that also can be customized over here. Now see 30px, width of the scrollbar is 30px. Can you see something like this? So this is the scrollbar and this is the scrollbar, and scrollbar width is getting increased, and here you can say the content. So we have seen two techniques for the scrollbar. So let's complete first webkit properties. Any question? Okay. So when you say webkit properties, let's complete this and again we'll go to the scrollbar. In the context of the webkit property, in the context of the CSS, webkit properties usually refers to the CSS properties and features that are specific to the webkit engine. In the context of CSS, webkit properties usually refers to CSS properties and features that are specific to the webkit engine. These properties were originally introduced and implemented by webkit and may not be supported by, see, these properties were originally introduced and implemented by webkit, and they may not be supported in other browser engines. Example of the CSS properties. See, the examples of the CSS properties that were initially introduced by the webkit and later adopted by other browsers, which is nothing but webkit border radius. So few properties: webkit border radius, webkit box shadow. See, box shadow we have seen yesterday, correct? So that is implemented in the webkit, and later on all the browsers have started supporting it. And webkit animation, these are few things. Now it is important to note that many WebKit specific properties used to have a prefix hyphen WebKit. See this, it is important to note that WebKit specific properties used to have hyphen WebKit prefix to indicate that they were proprietary features introduced by WebKit engine. Over time, as this feature gains the wider acceptance, browser have started supporting it. See, but whenever you see something like this hyphen WebKit scroll bar, so this feature or this property has been given to you by a WebKit engine, and later Firefox, Chrome, Safari and other people have started implemented in their core engine. If you see here, if this is a Firefox, Chrome and Safari, presently they might not be having these properties, but by looking at WebKit and their importance, they also have started using it, right? Hello. Over time, as these features gain a wider acceptance and were standardized, they are often implemented with the standard proprietary names and prefixes have been removed, right? Prefixes have been removed. Now see, WebKit transition is there. If you see WebKit animation, and there is animation, can you see? Earlier it was a WebKit implemented by the WebKit, and there is a property animation also. So those implemented from the WebKit, and later on names have been removed. Now for compatibility reason, you might still find WebKit in the existing system. For compatibility reasons, you might still find a WebKit prefix properties in older code bases or when working with the legacy systems, right? Remember that you might find these things, but what you can say, but it is good idea to prefer the browser documentation for most up-to-date information on the property support. Sometimes you might, now if something like this is natively available in the Chrome, why to use and go with the WebKit? That's what the meaning of this thing is. That don't use WebKit related things, right? If you know the particular properties which are supported by the browser, go with the respected property straight away, right? Fine. So this is about scrollbars using Overflow and WebKit. I have pushed the code. Documentation is also updated. Okay, I think we didn't write. Let's take this WebKit property somewhere here. WebKit properties. Okay, this is the overflow property, using overflow property, and now h1 using WebKit property, using WebKit property. So we need to add we need to add few things. WebKit scrollbar, WebKit scrollbar, this property. Then we have WebKit scrollbar thumb. We have seen what is a WebKit scrollbar thumb, and WebKit scrollbar track, where scrollbar will run, and this thing, right? Overflow will add the scrollbar. WebKit scrollbar, here we decide a width of, so this is the place where we create scroll bar. Exactly. Thumb, how a scroll thumb is this. So it is the unit. Where we touch or we scroll using mouse. It is the place where scroll bar runs.